Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash, and I want to say Shalom to Yaknakwalt out there, pursuing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson. This one's going to be titled something along the lines of we're entering into dangerous times, but the Lord protects his own. All right, and there's a bunch of different ways it could be worded. We're in dangerous times, or we're getting into more dangerous times, or there's many different ways to do it. But the working title, all right, as they say, is we're entering dangerous times, but the Lord protects his own, or the Lord protects his people. All right, and that's what it's dealing with. And of course, as we've been touching on with Esau and Moab and all these different things, we are eventually, going to have a race riot. All right, that is eventually going to be a thing that breaks out now, and it's actively being coordinated. If you really want to get down to it, there's just 8 hours ago. I haven't seen this lesson, but it's by the beloved Elder Menat Zabba down there in South Carolina. And it's titled, Esau Hates Jacob, Yahweh Hates Esau. And it's true. And, he put God Hates Esau, and I'm sure that he did that for a little bit more of a provocative title, all right? And I bet, I'm curious. I won't say I bet, but let's go see if any assholes, all right, commented on it. Matter of fact, let's watch a little bit. Let's see, just because it'll help with this lesson, all right? Let's see what people are saying. Right? And again, I made a couple different lessons. Don't let this work of world corrupt your mind. The Pact for the Future document. Well, not so much that one, but keep that same energy when the Lord comes back, And then the one that was uploaded on the other channel of mine, the backup, is titled, the incest twins are upset. So I've done at least 3 lessons, and this would be, 4th in that series, I guess. And yeah, man. So let's hear what's saying in this one, because I haven't watched this one.
Well, guys, check this out. I'm just going to come right out and fucking say it. I don't want nothing to do with being your neighbor. I don't want you in my neighborhoods. I can't even shop at the same stores you guys are at, because every single thing you're ever involved in becomes either dangerous or, at best, a complete pain in the fucking ass. Think about it. You can't even go grocery shopping. Like I said, why? Because as soon as you try to enter the building, what do we see? We see a gaggle of you motherfuckers intentionally standing in front of the entrance, smoking your weed, being a pain in the ass, because you want to get mad at everybody that gets irritated that they can't get around you, when it's you who are starting the fucking problem intentionally.
And that's a lie too, because I live in Vegas. I don't know what U.S. cities have high black populations. All right, let's look at them. Vegas should be in here, but let's see: New York, Atlanta, Chicago, Washington, Jackson, Detroit, Birmingham, Memphis, New Orleans, West Coast. Watch. On the West Coast. I think it should be there on the West Coast. It says, what do we have? I guess not. It says Los Angeles, which we're only 4 hours from, Oakland, a lot of California, Seattle. Let me see. How about Vegas? The North Las Vegas. Well, that's where my stomping grounds are. If you're living in the highest concentration of African American residents of the Valley, North Las Vegas is the core hub. 21% of the population is black. Home to roughly 70,000 black residents, and then historic West Side. Okay. And then and there's good part. Everybody, North Las Vegas gets a bad rep, but if you live in certain areas, there's certain parts of North Las Vegas that are actually, really decent. But people, end up looking at the bad areas of North Las Vegas, and they just roll with that. But in anyway, I used to work in one of the worst areas, not worse areas, but the what's the word? Not worser, but there's one of the areas, all right, that has a lot of homeless. It's ran down. Crime. I mean, it's been featured on the news before with some guy that was walking around. I don't know if he had a machete out in the middle of the road, just being crazy. I worked out in one of the buildings that was out by that road. All right, and I can tell you what all this to get to you there. I just wanted to get to Las Vegas because I guess Las Vegas, it's like it depends on certain areas. Vegas is kind of a weird punch bowl because there's certain areas of Vegas where it's just all white people, and then there's certain areas where it's all Asians, and then there's certain areas which is all Mexicans, and there's certain areas where it's just all black, and then there's certain areas where it's kind of like more grouped together. And you say, oh, that's all city. Vegas is different. I've lived a lot of different places. I've lived in California. I've lived in Oregon. I've lived in Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Nevada. Where else? Those are the big ones. And I can tell you that it's not the same. You know, when you say, oh, it's a black area. Yeah, but no, over here it's weird. It's oddly segregated, right? And but there's again mixing area, like for example downtown. That's a punch bowl. Everybody's in there, right? But there's a little bit of everything here, right? But I've been in frequently what they would call black areas, and I can tell you that no one's standing outside of a Walmart blocking the entrance by smoking weed. That's not happening. Okay, now do you smell weed in the parking lot? Yes. All right. Are there people standing outside of the Walmart entrance smoking weed? No. All right, there's not. All right, maybe like off to the side around the. I mean, nobody's even smoking cigarettes at the entrance, man. All right, like they do it like off to the side if they are, right? And I'm being honest, I don't have no reason to lie. I used to be a weed smoker. Like not even white people are doing that, right? And another thing is that when you smell weed in the parking lot, there's white people doing that too. All right. So, and well, weed's legal here, right? But no one's standing out in front of a business, just smoking weed out in front of it. That I have seen, all right, that I have seen. And I've gone to Smith's out here. I've gone to, the Sprouts and the Whole Foods and the Kroger, the brand store. Well, that would be our Kroger brand. It would be Smith's. And I've been to Asian stores. I've been to Walmart. I haven't seen it personally. I have not seen it. So I'm inclined to believe that what you're saying is a lie. Okay, I've never been. I'm a white-looking individual myself. All right, even though I'm an Israelite, and that the skin, right, with the skin color, I've never been heckled. All right, for being white. I've never been attacked for being white. I've never been blocked access to a store because I was white. Right. I've never had someone attack me because I was white. I've never had any of those things happening. So really, Esau has a persecution fetish, man. And the funny thing is that coming soon, Esau is going to get that persecution that he so wants. Okay, because you're going into captivity, boy. All right, and it's fact. All right, and let's go and get that scripture real quick. I always get it. We've all heard it. We all know it. We all love it. All right, let's go and get it. Right here, Revelation 13:10. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. So here's the thing, and you got to realize the Lord has, different strokes for different folks, right? You're not supposed to just go and do those things, all right? But there will be a retribution, okay? For example, it says, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Well, if who leads into captivity goes into captivity. If you lead us into captivity, then you're going to go into captivity. No, we've already been in captivity, all right? That's part of that retribution, all right? That's part of, the Lord's revenge, so to speak. It's not really, revenge is, seen as a negative light, but it's really his get back, okay? And that's part, it's right in there at that tail end. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Because you did that to a people, all right? Those people are going to get over you, all right? And they're going to rule over you, okay? It says, he that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. So, those that like to lead people into captivity. And who was that primarily? And again, I've been arguing with Edomites all week on Instagram. And they always say, a whole bunch of dumb shit, man. Whole bunch of dumb shit. I've talked about a lot of them. Today, so the guy that was originally replying to me, that guy I was arguing with, he deleted his comments, or his account got banned. I don't know what happened. But a second guy picked up and said something like, oh, because I said, oh, it was the white people that, that did all these different things and colonized and, made all these lands bad. And this guy said, oh, well, if black people were actually intelligent, all right, and didn't have low IQs, they would have actually been able to build boats and probably would have colonized as well. All right. And he said, have you been to St. Louis? All right. And I went, basically saying that they can't, basically in that he said basically like black people can't invent. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And I just went on to lead how the first Isobus, as well as the first gigahertz chip was actually created, or at least the group that made it was actually led and instructed by a black individual, all right, that worked for IBM. Okay, I've talked about how I like IBM a lot. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. They're working on, the mark and doing a lot of other weird shit going on. But I liked 80s and 90s, most so 80s and 90s IBM. They were cool, IBM PC compatibles, and that's where all the old DOS games and stuff were really made for. And that's, where we got the modern keyboard from was the Model M that was developed by IBM. Also, that keyboard layout was also invented by a black man. But black people can't create anything, right? They never create anything, right? Well, first of all, a lot of the stuff that was created in the 1800s and 1700s, all right, was all obscured and taken over by white people, all right, who claimed to have invented them themselves. And then after that, the history was largely obscured, all right, with things like Lewis Latimer, all right, who invented the carbon filament, all right, for the light bulb. Without him, basically at the time, he made it to where instead of a light bulb burning out in minutes, it was able to last up to I believe an hour or so. All right, or longer, which basically he laid the groundwork and the framework for light bulbs to go on to eventually last, weeks and then months and then years, right? So I've had several light bulbs now that just last years, right? But that's the modern framework. I mean, and then I also commented, I said a black woman was actually the one who created the CCTV, or the security system that white people so love to protect themselves from the dangerous blacks today, right? It was actually a black individual that did that, as well as the refrigerated truck, all right? Because before the refrigerated truck, you could not carry perishables, whether it be food or medical supplies, long distances, all right? But a black individual, I believe it was a black man specifically, and I'm using the term black, but it's really Israelite, all right? But of course, these are those, these words that they put on us. And you wouldn't have any of those inventions without black people. Again, it's Esau, as I commented on the Elder Menatazatbaz page recently, is that you can't reason with Esau. You can't do fact, because a lot of them are really dumb. They're dumb. They're low intellectual. They have low intellectual capabilities. They have a overwhelming level of cognitive dissonance. All right, and we can go and look up what cognitive dissonance is. What is cognitive dissonance? Salakia. Cognitive dissonance is the psychological discomfort you feel when your actions, beliefs, or values clash. The mental tension motivates the brain to reduce on. Can we just break this down into where everybody could, in simple terms? It's a psychological discomfort you feel when your beliefs, values, or attitudes clash with your actions. This mental friction demands resolution, pushing you to either change your behavior or find a way to justify your actions to restore peace of mind. So it causes that cognitive dissonance when you bring up fact. They either have to change and be like, oh wow, I'm dumb, or they have to find a way to justify their actions to restore that peace of their mind. And what they do is they try to find like I said to the guy, I said a lot of the time white people to remedy that go with pseudoscience. All right, they find pseudoscientific studies, all right, and they just go off of that and they say, oh well, there's this study that black people have a smaller brain or something. Well, no, that's pseudoscience, and they've already disproved that. Or actually, the DNA has already been disproved. So what are you getting at, right? But the thing is, instead of admitting, oh shit, I'm a moron, they're gonna double down and they're gonna try to find another way, or they're gonna jump topics. All right, like that guy the other day I was talking to, jump topic, and he said, well, I'm Irish, and I was we were sold as slaves as well. And I said, I'm Scottish, all right, and the Irish were sold as indentured servants. Okay, they were basically sold as indentured servants, and that's a whole thing you could get into with Esau. Indentured servants did not have rights, or Slakia. Indentured servants had rights, all right? Slaves, as in the transatlantic slave trade, they had no rights, all right? Indentured servants had rights, all right? For example, one of their rights was that all throughout history. All right, and they're actually, the groundwork is actually within the Bible. And in the 7th, he shall go out free. And this was actually the framework that was used pretty much at all times. All right, even the Romans used this framework. Now, biblically, it's going to say 7 years, but I guess the primary period was 4 to 7 years. Okay, but 7 was the maximum amount of time. Even in you can look that up. How long did an indentured servant serve in Rome? And it's going to say 4 to 7 years, most likely. All right. It says indefinite term. Debtors did not sign a contract for 4 to 7 years because why does it know that specifically? Why does it know the 4 to 7 years? Why does it know that? That's interesting. Ancient Rome did not have indentured servitude in the modern sense. Instead, they had debt bondage, nexum, which did not have a fixed time limit. A person was bound to work for their creditor until the principal debt was completely paid off. Well, I've already looked this up, and this could be some semblance of truth. But you can look up convict, indentured servant served terms of 4 to 6 years, while convicts had to serve at least 7 years. Who is this dealing with necessarily? This is NPS. Whatever this is, but let's see. This is a colonial period. Indentured servants from Rome. No, not from Rome, from Europe. Excuse me. I got Rome on the mind. British servants themselves. 4 to 6 to 7, but they're saying Rome had a different, way of doing it. Maybe they did, but I've seen it before when I've looked it up that it was 4 to 7 years. Let's see. How long did it take? That's colonial America. So colonial America was 4 to 7 years. All right, which again, if you really want to go back to it, that comes back to Exodus 21:2, and it says, "If thou buy an Hebrew servant, 6 years shall he serve. It's like 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing." So he doesn't have to pay anything off. He doesn't have to do any of that. And the 7th, it's done. His debt is paid off, and that's it, right? So that type of, servitude was different, okay? And do you think that's going to be what's done with you? No, not with you. When we get our hold on you, it's going to be for 1,000 years, and then after that 1,000 years, are going to be put to death, because all the other heathens, all right, all the other nations, all right, they're going to live, all right. So all the Asian individuals, and so to speak, they actually go back to Ammon, Moab, and other heathen nations, Ishmael, and all the other ones. They are going to exist after 1,000 years. They have 1,000 years of captivity because of what they did. Because again, they were confederate with you. All right, you guys formed a confederacy against us, and they did that. So they're going to go into captivity for 1,000 years. Then after that 1,000 years, that bondage is going to be over. We're going to rule over them. All right. But it's not going to be in captivity. We're just going to be like the governing force, right? And make sure they're not breaking any of the laws and doing stuff like that. But Esau, all right, the so-called white man, you're going away, all right? You're going to be gathered and burnt, and there should not be one remaining of the house of Esau, as the scripture says. Let's actually go and get that. Not one remaining of the house of Esau. I don't know why I put an extra E on that. All right, that's in Obadiah. All right, Obadiah 1:18 specifically. It says, "And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble." So you're gonna basically be burned up. It says, "And they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord hath spoken it." And this is a future prophecy. This has not happened yet. Someone's, "Oh well, no, Esau already went away." No, nope. Not happened. All right, and you can tell that they haven't gone away because going by biblical prophecy and history, all right, you can show that there's a bunch of different scriptures, like they covet fields and take them by violence. Well, who's the biggest colonizer? It's the European, the so-called white man. All right, as swift as the eagle flieth, and all the scriptures that reference Esau and Idumea with the eagle. All right, well, What do you use as your flag? All right, to this day. All right, well, not your American flag, but your presidential seal, your flag, the eagle. All right, and what did Rome use? The eagle. And what did Greece use? The eagle. All right, it's followed you everywhere. It's like a permanent stain on your image that lets everybody know who you are. Right. But with that, also another thing that's prophesied is forgers of lies. Okay. This is Job 13:4, but you're forgers of lies, you're all physicians of no value. That's one of my favorite scriptures, right? Because it shows you not only that they're liars, but that they can't heal you for shit, okay? Because they're not good medical practitioners. But they're liars, all right? And that's one of the things they have to do. That's where that cognitive dissonance plays, all right? When they're showed fact, all right? When you deal, with history, when you deal with actual non-pseudoscience science and reports and all these different things, it's either one, they accept them and have to change their way, or they double down and look like morons, but all the other white people say yeah, and that's the one that they choose. Okay, that's the one that they choose because they refuse to admit that they're wrong and that Jake actually does have extreme levels of intelligence and as well as are great inventors. All right, a lot of the stuff that's used today was invented by black individuals, or at least highly developed into what we know it today by black individuals, so-called. But Esau, with their cognitive dissonance, all right, they can't handle it. All right, so anyway, let's continue to hear this guy lie.
I don't want nothing to do with this. Then we get inside and what do we see? We see you motherfuckers walking around like it's your own personal living room, yelling to each other back and forth across the entire fucking store, hooting and hollering. Then what do we see? We see at least one of you motherfuckers screaming at another one of you motherfuckers getting ready for a fight.
Where?
Whether you're screaming at a cashier, at a friend of yours, you're screaming
Never seen it.
at a custodian or a shelf stocker. You're always...
And I guarantee I'm in a bigger city than this. Is Jax, the Florida man. What part of Florida are you in? Jack, is your name Jax, or is that like short for like Jacksonville? What part are you from? All right, what part are you from? I need to know.
Screaming at somebody. Then we get up to the cash register and, well, it's going to take more fucking time because we've got more fucking altercations on our hands because something rang up for 10 cents more expensive than it said on the shelf, and now it's a problem. There's no patience being exhibited. No, it's not like, oh, I understand things happen. Go ahead and take care of that. No, it's, I can't believe you motherfucker. You're costing me my day. You know how precious my time is. You know how important I fucking am. It's all this bullshit. Then we leave the fucking store. We go back into the neighborhoods. And what do we see? We see you motherfuckers taking over street after street after street with your shitbox cars, your fucking block parties, your fucking loud hooting and hollering that goes on all night. Every single fucking night. You got fucking subwoofers blaring at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday when people are trying to go to sleep so they can go to work tomorrow, and you don't give a fuck. No, in fact, you give so many less fucks about anything that you invite more people. So now we got all these random people cruising through, got all these fucking altercations happening in the street because you guys have zero ability to handle any sort of conflict in any other method than physical violence. It has to be violent, has to be loud, and it has to be your way. What the fuck makes you think I or anybody else wants to deal with any of this? And on top of all this, you hate me and my people with a greater passion than we've seen in fucking eons for any sort of hate of any
I wonder
sort of
why.
people.
I wonder why.
Why would we want anything to do with this? Now, that all being said, I will have you notice, I did not once mention a color of people, a demographic of people, a culture of people. I didn't mention any sort of identifying factors except behavior. And based on that, everybody fucking knew I was not talking about white people.
You know what cracks me up?
You want to know why? Because there's a phenomena, all right, called deduction. Okay, and you should be able to deduce things. All right, if you have a white person sitting there screaming in a car, do you think they're screaming about white people? No, obviously they're not. They're obviously going to be screaming about black people, Mexican people, primarily. All right, you don't really ever see white people sitting around screaming about Asians. It's usually black people and Mexicans. All right, that's pretty much who it always is. And yeah, that's just social deduction. It's like, oh, we see, it shows you who they are. Just, but no, that's not how it is. All right, it's just you can just deduce who you're talking about. We know who you're talking about. All right, if we say, oh, those fucking people. You don't have to say anything else. When you say those fucking people, we know who you're talking about. All right, because we know who you hate. All right, because you had a perpetual hatred. Let's go and get that. All right, Ezekiel 35:5. because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and has shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, and the time that their iniquity had an end. Got to get verse 6. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. So that thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. And I just think it's hilarious, because when the Lord comes back and you see that he's a black man, all right, it's not going to be good for you. You say, oh, well, the Jesus ain't no goddamn black. Well, he is actually. All right, so let me show you. Let's go and get Revelation. We'll just get it here. Revelation 13, or Revelation 1 and 13. Okay, it says, and in the midst of 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. And his head and his hairs were white like wool. So a lot of people like to say, first of all, before we get to the skin color, a lot of people like to say, oh, well, you know, that's just, his hair's white like wool. All right, well, wool comes in many different colors. All right, and to prove that, Ancient of Days. Here's a scripture about the Father, okay? And it doesn't mention the color of his hair, okay? Daniel 7 and 9, it says, and I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. And his throne, his throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Now you can go and look up Daniel 7 and 9. Who is this talking about? It says it's an apocalyptic vision of God in heaven. All right, now his real name's Yahweh, but you say God. It depicts God, okay, taking a seat on a fiery throne surrounded by glowing wheels, okay? So if you go in to look in this, you're always going to depict him as white, all right? And notice how he doesn't have woolly hair. Well, why doesn't he have woolly hair? All right, well, it said he had woolly hair. It said as like the pure wool, all right, like the pure wool. Now, if you go and look up wool, okay, they're going to show you white, but wool is not always white, okay? It comes in many different colors, all right? What color is wool? Okay, it usually comes in a naturally creamy white, but various sheep breeds produce diverse undyed colors like black, brown, silver, and morit. And there's tons of different sheep, all right? There's tons of different sheep. But of course, Esau, again, with their control system, they have to put things like, oh, it's usually always, you know, natural creamy white. Well, why wouldn't it be a natural brown, all right, or a natural black, or a natural silver? So you have to say it's a natural white. Again, you know, they try to have to, you know, again, any farmer will be able to tell you that sheep come in many different colors. They're not just all white, okay? They're not just all white. Now, you know, a lot of the ones that they breed currently are white, and I'd assume only that's the case because it makes it easier to dye into different colors. But Daniel 7 and 9 says, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. Okay, so pure wool, what does that mean? It means his hair is woolly. Okay, now let's see if the Blue Letter Bible goes off, because I'm curious. And the Blue Letter Bible does go off from time to time, but let's go and see if it goes off for Daniel 7 and 9 specifically. Let's go and look into that word for wool. And this is in the interlinear, so it's going to be in the original Hebrew. The Ancient of Days did sit in the garment, was white like snow, like the pure wool. So it goes back to the word amar, okay, and it just means wool. Okay, it corresponds to wool. Wool, it can be metaphorically whiteness, which it's not, but that's what they say it is. The thing with Christians, they try to use a lot of metaphorically. They try, when things don't fit their, you know, the belief is in how it's written. They're like, oh, it's a metaphor. It's metaphorically speaking. Oh, he was metaphorically brown. His eyes were metaphorically red. His hair was metaphorically woolly. His hair was metaphorically white. Oh, he was metaphorically this. Oh, they were metaphorically that. No, it's fact. It's not everything's a metaphor. All right, but that's the thing. When Christians don't understand something, what they do is they just go and say, oh, it's metaphorically speaking. All right. Oh, it's an abstract concept. Right? That's what they do. It's abstract. It's metaphorical. It's abstract. You know, imagine trying to go and like trying to fight in a court of law over that. Well, what did you do? Well, you know, it's kind of, the things that were done, it's kind of metaphorical, nothing's really it's not actually what happened. I mean, it's not really necessarily literal. The events that transcribed was, really kind of like an abstract concept. Look, man, did you do it or not? Well, metaphorically speaking, it was done and not done. It was more of a story, if you will, about how, look, man, it either is or it isn't. Okay, but Christians, they try to do these things, and there are metaphors and there are parables within the Bible, but there's certain things that are just written plainly. Okay, other things are, parables, such as, there's a lot of ones about farmers and stuff like that. There's parables and things like that, but other scriptures, not every single scripture is a parable. Okay, some things are there to be taken literally. That's what it means. It's not, you have to be abstract and psychedelic with your reasoning and thinking. But that's how Esau, because that's what happens when they don't understand. When you don't understand, you try to look for, different outlets. And one of the things is, it's metaphorical. It's not metaphorical. It's fact. All right. And again, the son, just like the father, has white woolly hair. Revelation 1:14. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. That's metaphorically, though. Here's another one they try to say it's metaphorical. It's representative, but it's not what his skin color was. Revelation 1:15, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. So his feet were like brass that burned in a furnace. Okay, so first, if you go and you can just look up burnt brass. Okay, and you can go and look at this. Would that be a white individual? Okay, now let's go and look up. Let's go and look up a white person. Is their skin like that? Like burnt brass? Or let's go look. Whose skin is more like burnt brass? Is it black people or is it white people? Is it black people or is it white people? And they'll say, well, he wasn't black, he was Middle Eastern. That's great. I love that you said that. But the people that are currently dwelling in the Middle Eastern regions are not lands have been moved and transferred of ownership and conquered and colonized and all these different things. For example, you have the Israelis, all right, that are currently residing within the state of Israel. Well, did you know before it was the state of Israel, before 1948, that land was called Palestine? All right, and did you know before it was Palestine, it was Israel again, going back to ancient times? Did you know that? Did you know that names change? For example, did you know, what about the USSR? Well, the USSR doesn't exist anymore, but it did exist, but now it's just Russia and other places. What about Czechoslovakia? All right, no such thing as Czechoslovakia. Now it's just Czech. All right, people have immigrated, people have moved. For example, do you think that the original inhabitants, all right, if you go and look this up, were the original inhabitants of, and you have a lot of people that are trying to look at this, South Africa, white, and they weren't. No, the original inhabitants of South Africa were not white, but they are now. It says the true indigenous people were the Khoisan. It says later migrations of Bantu-speaking agro-pastoralist populations also settled in the region pre-colonial times. Pre-colonial, so it was colonized. Okay, it was colonized. But if you look over there, years upon years and not knowing that, you'd be like, oh, well, that it's just and it's indigenous white people that live in that area. No, they came over there. Okay, so it's the same thing with like people in Middle East. You had a large variety of colors. It's like the same thing with the Africans. All right, or Egyptians. The original Egyptians were black. That was one of the questions that came up. Were the original Egyptians black? And they were, because they were what's the term that they use? Let me think. Really, they were sub-Saharan African, but the which was very dark skin. If you look at Sub-Saharan African, but the Nubian. All right, the Nubian people. All right. I was gonna say no. All right. Mainstream historians and anthropologists agreed that ancient Egyptians were not monolithically black or white. Instead, they were indigenous Northeast African populations. Okay, well, let's go look up Northeast African person. Huh. So you're telling me that the original inhabitants looked like this. She's kind of bad though. Kind of got those too Hamitic of an eyes, but her eyes were a little less Hamitic. She kind of bad though. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, man. So Nubian, or you can go and look up Nubian. Nubians are an indigenous African ethnic group to the Nile Valley, like the Nilotic people. Okay, are they the same? Let's see, are they the same as Nilotic people? No, they're not. They're not the same. Well, they're both indigenous African populations, distinct ethnic. Okay, so let's look at Nubians then. Interesting. Again, various different colors. All right, now they'll try to say that someone that looks like I don't know. Let me try to find the whitest individual that I can. Thankfully they're not showing too many, but try to show the whitest individual. This is about the whitest I can find. And you can still tell there's non-white features in there, but they'll try to say that, the modern, they'll try to find the whitest or most Arabic looking person, say that's Nubians. No, if you look at ancient Nubian statues, it's not what they look like. Okay. Look at this. Nubian kings ruled Egypt for less than 100 years. Their influence lasts centuries. Of course, that's what they like to say, right? But other than Nubian kings, they also had the Nilotic people. All right, you have the sub-Saharan African individuals. All right, and the indigenous North African people, which if you or Northeast African, which if you look up Northeast African, the people that come up are Nilotic people. All right, Northeast. Look at all these individuals, man. Look at all these individuals. Okay, are they white? No. All right, these are people you would call spooks, coons, jigaboos, right? That you would say Esau, right? That's what you would call them, right? So they're not white. Well, they weren't African. They were African. That's the whole thing, is that Egypt is in Africa. But anyway, and Esau is just crazy. They have such a hate. If you don't think this woman's bad, I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, she's got a little bit too much jewelry, but she's pretty in the face, right? Anyway, and the eye's a little too squinty, but that can be worked out. But yeah, man. So but it's just well, they weren't black. Look, man, they weren't you. Okay, they weren't you, and you're not this color. Okay, going back to this is burnt brass. All right, this is burnt brass. This is the lighter form of burnt brass. All right, you can go and get the lightest form of burnt brass. This is artificially burnt brass. This is painted burnt brass. But when it's actually real burnt brass, this is the color. All right, and it varies in shades because look, you got darker spots and you got lighter spots, and that's how our people are. You Israel, you have darker people, and you have lighter people. All right, but at the end of the day, all right, with the true Israelite skin tone, because you're gonna have individuals that look white or Asian or all sorts of different things because how things work when you end up getting with heathen women. All right, but it goes back to the seed line of your father. Some people are gonna look like that, but our true color is various shades of brown. Okay, which most of our people still are today. Okay, but Esau doesn't like to get into Revelation 1 and 15, and his feet like into fine brass. And I don't know about you, but my feet are roughly the same color as the rest of my body. And as I always like to say, my feet are actually a little bit lighter than the rest of my body. Okay, if you look at a black person, the lightest parts on a black person are going to be their feet, all right, and their palms. Okay, so if his feet, okay, were like into fine brass, how dark was the rest of his body? Okay, and if you don't know that palms and feet are lighter, all right, then we can go and look that up. What we'll just look up, are black people hands and feet lighter color? Yes, black people have lighter palms and soles, just like people of all other races. Okay, so there you go. Why the hands and feet feature a specialized type of thick skin. Okay, so yeah, man, your hands, and your feet are gonna be lighter. So that means he was actually a couple shades darker than that. Okay. But yeah, man, see, this is where the retardation comes in. All right. Like I said, you got that, as I said yesterday, you got that spiritual helmet and elbow pad spirit, that spirit, right? The drooling, like, oh, come over here. You know, you got that spiritual retardation. You don't know anything. All right. You're so filled with hate. All right. That all the intelligence has nowhere to go. Okay. It's stupid. But anyway, this is really what we were even going to be talking about today, but that's what we ended up talking about. Let's see. Let's get Obadiah 1:15 because it's on here on the comment board. Let's read it. Let's go and get it. And a matter of fact, we're already at 40 minutes. You know, I might just do I might just make that the lesson, and then I might just make that the lesson, and then grab some of the scriptures off this comment board. And then just save this for tomorrow. So Obadiah 1:15, it says, "For the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head." All right. So what does this mean? What you did, all right, is like I just got it the other day. What's another one? I'm trying to think of another one. There's the one that comes to mind. I already got the other day, but let's see. No. Anyway, I mean, if we go back to the scripture we got earlier, with the Revelation 13:10, "He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword." Well, going back into that, Obadiah 1:15 is a perfect companion scripture because it says, "For the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen." That's Esau, Moab, Ishmael, Ammon, Amalek, so on and so forth, right? It says, "As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee." Okay, so as the scripture was mentioning in Revelation, all right, you lead into captivity, you go into captivity. You kill with the sword, you get killed with the sword. As it says in Obadiah, "As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee." So those things that you did, it's going to be done unto you. Okay, it's going to be done unto you. That's what's going to happen. And I know it's hard to hear that a black man has it out for you, and you know that there's a black man sitting in the heavens with his son, also another black man, and all the black angels. And they don't like Edomites. All right, I know it's hard to understand. That's why your people created the alien. Okay, because it's easier to explain the alien. For example, think about how people always like to call us crazy, right? Because we say, oh well, the Lord. Well, it says. Let's get it. This is 2nd Esdras 9:2. It says, "And then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made." And of course, this is referring to the previous scripture, what's talking about, signs of the times. Okay, and if you get verse 3, it talks about, "Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world," and this is this not an uproar of the people? What is an uproar? Okay, a violent commotion, noisy excitement, a situation where a large group of people are angrily complaining about something. Is this not an uproar? It says, when you see these things, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the beginning that were before thee, even from the beginning. Okay, so everything was set out on a specific conveyor belt, if you will, and it's rolling along. It's like a VHS tape, all right, or a DVD or a movie. When you put it on, it rolls along, it goes from start to finish, all right, and everything is already on that tape or on that disc, right? And really the only one that can stop it is the Lord, all right, and he's not stopping, he's letting it roll, and it's been rolling since the dawn of time, right? And so you individuals think that you're playing, that you're doing your own thing, but really you're just playing a part, right? You're just playing a part in the movie. All right, you're the main antagonist, all right, and we're the main protagonists, okay? And right now, there are uproars of the people, so that's showing he's visiting the world right now. And how does he visit the world? He visits the world in his chariots, okay? Now, that's going to be a concept where that's very abstract to the Edomite, because if you go in there, it's talking about as birds flying, so shall he defend Jerusalem. He's going to return in a cloud. He departed in a cloud. He went up in a cloud, he went up in a cloud and departed from them. It also says the same way that, in the same manner that he left is the same way that he's coming back. All right, shall return in like manner. Okay, and he went up into a cloud. Now, a cloud is a reference to what modern people would call a UFO. Okay, now you think that's crazy, but why do you think the Pentagon and all these different places are revealing, oh yeah, UFOs are a thing? Because there's starting to be so many UFO sightings that they can't say it's not a thing anymore. All right, and they just say, oh, we don't know what it is. It could be, you know, this technology, and they're trying to perpetrate like aliens could potentially be a thing. Aliens don't exist. All right, well they do. Alien is like how you say with Jake that comes here without following your paper yokes, right? Oh, an illegal alien. Right? Alien means you're a foreigner to this land. First of all, Mexicans cannot be an alien, all right, because they're not well, they are a foreigner, but they were here before you. Okay, really, you're the alien that came over here, right? You had Iskar and Gad that established, you know, a life on this place you now call America, for lack of a better word. But before that, our people were indigenous to Israel. Okay, because that's, well, technically you had to, go and get that land. Well, yeah, technically, but that's where our home base was set. So generations after that was considered indigenous. You considered, just as people now would almost want to consider you indigenous to this land, but you're not indigenous. You're not indigenous land. And if you really want to get down to it, so-called Mexican and Native American aren't technically indigenous either, but they're just the most indigenous out of everybody. They were here before, pretty much anybody else was. So, anyway, lost my train of thought. But where was I going? Anyway, you have to say that, oh, it's Little Green Men coming out, because it would, it's harder. It's easier to say that and have people seem just crazy than, oh yeah, the chariots. They're actually chariots. These UFOs are actually called chariots or clouds that the Bible talks about. And the angels and actually, the Lord are in them. And they're actually, funny thing, we lied. They're not white as we do all the depictions. They're actually black. And they're coming. And also, by the way, they hate us. They really don't like us. There's plenty of scriptures where he talks about the Edomites. So yeah, that's the thing. No, people would, it would be pandemonium. People would freak out and they'd be panicking, hyperventilating, and all sorts of shit, right? And they try to kill up a whole bunch of black and Mexican people and Native Americans to see, if they could actually get away with it, and Latinos in general, I should say, and see if they could like stop it from happening, but it's not. And again, like we're going to get in lesson, Lord willing, tomorrow. I thought I was going to get today, is that they're going to try to come and do something against us. But again, at the end of the day, we don't have anything to fear, all right? Because we have Yahweh Bashem Yahushai on our side, right? So, as a matter of fact, bear with me just one moment. Let me write these down. Let me see. 1 minute. I'll actually pause it, so bear with me. 1 minute. All right, slacking. But yeah, man. So, I just wanted to write those down so I can, I'll probably save them, but you never know if the computer crashes or whatever. I just want to have them written down on a sticky note. So, anyway, that's Obadiah 1 and 15. We'll read it again, then we'll go back to the comment board and see if we can grab one or two more and then close out. So, Obadiah 1 and 15. For the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. Let's see. It's true. You Edomites was the first people that received food stamp benefits. It's true. And they try to make it seem like Jake is the one that's more on it. All right. And there are people that are on it. All right. There's still more white people that are on it. I love this one. Let's get that one right at the top. Psalms 58 and 10. Okay. And it says, the righteous shall rejoice. All right, we're playing the role of the righteous. All right, E. It says, when he seeth the vengeance. All right, that's the death and destruction, the chaos. Well, of course, just like you. All right, keep that same spirit. He shall wash his feet in the blood of the wicked. And that's the other thing, is that you're just predictable. You're just predictable, man. All right, but it's good. We like a predictable enemy. Let's see. We already got that one. Yep, Obadiah 1 and 18. Esau, don't worry, there's plenty of space in the kingdom to address your issues. It's true. Well, all I heard was a bunch of low IQ blabber. They don't even know what's in store for them. It's true. It's just a bunch of right? But because we mess up a word, all right, or forget how to spell a word, all right, they think that's a sign of us being low intellectual individuals, okay, for lack of a better word. They're saying raise it, raise it. Yeah, that's what they're doing. Absolutely. Let's get that scripture. I believe it's a psalm. Yeah, Psalm 137 and 7. It says, this is dealing with, well, Edom, all right, Esau. It says, Psalm 137 and 7, remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. All right, and raise something, it means to burn something. All right, R-A-S-E means to burn. All right, to destroy with fire. It says to raise, I guess it can mean not only with fire, but I usually hear it with fire. It means to erase, scratch out, and scrape a surface, or to demolish a city or structure. Now more commonly spelt as R-A-Z-E. But yeah, I usually hear it like with fire. All right, raising a building would be like burning it down. Okay, demolish, destroy, or level to the ground. So that's what you want to do. That's what they're doing. All right. And look, it's Babylon, all right? O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, and you are to be destroyed, happily shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. So all the destruction and torment you've caused us, well, guess what? It's coming back on you, man. It's coming back on you. Yep, there they got it. And I think we'll just close it out there, right? I think we'll close it out there. And again, I haven't seen this lesson. Maybe I'll watch it, tomorrow or some other. I don't know. We'll see. Because I got other. I still got a GMS mailbag because the Apostle Gabar brought that series back. I also got this brother's live stream that he just did today, I believe. 3 hours ago. I wasn't, able to join in on that one live. I thought about doing it, but I was watching another lesson at the time that Apostle Gabar had made. So I said, I'll finish this lesson up. But yeah, man, lot of stuff, lot of lessons going on, man. A lot of lessons going on, a lot of stuff, a lot of Esau acting up and chimping out, right? I mean, it wasn't us that were hanging off the Capitol building, all right, and climbing up and down walls and shit. So that's some monkey-like behavior, and it wasn't us, all right. That was so-called white people. So that's where I close out. All right, I'm not gonna even give a chance for these retards to speak. All right, if you watch the video, you'll have the displeasure of hearing their, esophagus. All right, well, their vocal box, their vocal cords make the unpleasant hum that is their voice. So, go ahead and check it out if you want to check it out. Subscribe to the brother regardless. All right, because he's good teacher, excellent teacher, as a matter of fact. And but that's where we're gonna close it out. All right, so Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh. Shemi Hawashai, Shemer Kakwadash. Shalom, you brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring, keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Until next one, Lord willing. Shalom.